How do your rigs sit underwater? What can fish actually see? How do you cast and bait up accurately? And what do you need to catch consistently?
Cracking dark scaly mirror, absolutely stunning.
I've been a carp angler for over 30 years and a diver for nearly 20. I spend a massive amount of my time underwater studying carp and carp fishing. I've seen the best and the worst. I've swum with them, watched them feed and studied their behaviour and characteristics. In total, I've got hundreds of hours of knowledge and some incredible underwater footage that I'm more than happy to share with you. Welcome to Understanding Underwater.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Understanding Underwater. Firstly, I'm going to say thank you ever so much for the feedback that you've given us on the previous films. It's really good to see that, and also it's just a great thing to do. We really enjoy doing it, and if you're enjoying it, we'll just keep doing it and keep pumping the stuff out. So don't forget, send in your questions either through social media or alternatively my page, Dynamite page, Carp Spirit page. Get those questions into us and we'll do the very best that we can do to answer them for you. Well, as you can see, I'm out today again. I'm on the bank and this is a very, very special venue. This is Green Hills Lake on the Bishop's Bowl complex. It's an old quarry. It's a unique venue, partly because the water is absolutely crystal clear. And today I'm going to be going below the surface to answer more of your questions. So we'll do our best. It's chucking it down with rain. I don't know what the water conditions are like yet, but I'm sure they're going to be fine. Get your questions in, we'll get answering them.
Hello Rob, quick question on solid PVA bags. If you're fishing on thin carpet weed, will a pop-up present better or just as well as a wafter? And if you add oil to a bag, how much longer will it add to the dissolve time of the bag?
Well, that's a brilliant question. PVA bags are just such a good way of catching fish. They used to be really, really popular, but these days they've sort of gone out of fashion a little bit. And it's really interesting looking at how fashion changes through carp fishing. You know, back in the day, we used to use stringers a lot. Then it went to PVA bags. Then it went to sticks. Now it seems to be Ronnies. Prior to that, it was Choddies. You know, lots of people use the same thing that's trendy, but there are certain things that will work all the time, and solid PVA bags in particular are one of them. Now, let's have a look at PVA. One thing I'm going to say first is a lot of people ask, what is the greatest invention since the hair rig? For me, it's PVA without any shadow of doubt. Whether it is string, whether it's mesh, whether it's solid bags, whether it's nuggets, whatever it is, PVA just allows you to do so much and it can help you so much in your fishing. So if you don't use it very often, try it. Just try different areas and see how much it works. We're going to look at solids in particular today. And one of the things with solids is that there is a bit of a conception that you can chuck it anywhere and it will fish. Now for me, that's a big no-no. You know, I've heard people saying, oh yeah, just chuck it into the weed, it's absolutely fine. It isn't, trust me, it really, really isn't. I've seen it both below the surface and I've also seen it and experienced it when I'm fishing myself. If you bung it in the wrong place, it's next to useless, and that goes for any rig at all. So let's have a little look at where you can and also where you shouldn't use PVA bags. Before anybody turns around and says, oh, don't worry about it, they'll find it. Yes, they might do. But for me, the key thing is getting a bite as quickly as possible. You know, my job, certainly within the England team, is to work out patterns, work out a strategy and get bites quicker than everyone else. And you can chuck a solid in weed, and yes, you might catch on it, and there might be loads of old boys on there, they're going, oh, I used to do that. You might catch one in a week. You know what, we'll catch one in 5 minutes. So if you present the right thing in the right place, it's going to be so much better for you. Where not to use them first? Well, The big one for me is thick, heavy weed. And remember, weed comes in lots of different things. It can be sparse and long. And by sparse and long, I mean light Canadian or broad-leafed, that you can actually get to the bottom in. And if you can get to the bottom in it, you know what? Yes, you can possibly present a bait in there. And in addition, if the fish move through it, then you know what? Yes, you can there as well. But only if it's sparse. And by that, I mean that it doesn't grow thick. Now, let's have a look at thick weed, thick beds of Canadian. Absolute no-no. If you're pulling Canadian weed in and it's thicker than about 1.5 foot deep, forget your solid PVA bags. Find a clean spot and present them there instead. Then let's have a look at short weed, like grass, like silkweed, like things like that. Can you present a bag there? The answer is yes, and I'll go through different types of bags that you can use there to make it a little bit better. So weed, be a little bit careful. Don't just lob it in and think you'll be all right, because you won't. The second one to think about is silt. Now, on my Facebook page a while ago, I put up a picture of a PVA bag that had sunk in silt, and there was a few clever people that came on and said, yeah, but fish feed in silt. They're used to feeding in silt. Are you telling me they're not going to find it? I'll go back to what I said a minute ago. Yes, they will find it, but it'll take them ages. Why make it difficult? Why bury it when you can put it on top of the table? That's my view. So if it's thick silt, and by thick silt I mean anything thicker than sort of that deep, I wouldn't bother, because they look a little bit like this. And this is what happens when a bag sinks into silt. Eventually it will carry on getting sucked in, it will get covered over, and basically it's rendered next to useless. Yes, they might find it, but you know what? I'm not going to wait for that. I want to present it in the right place and get the bite quicker. So the best place to present PVA bags is on a relatively firm bottom, somewhere where with a lead you feel it down and you feel a donk. Now, yes, you can present a boilie there as well, but a PVA bag offers so much more than just a boilie, because you can add colours to it, you can add texture to it, you can add smell to it. It can be a big one, a small one. There's all sorts of things you can do with a solid bag to make it worthwhile. So let's go through a number of bag presentations now and look at their benefits and how they work best on hard bottoms. In clear water in particular, nobody will be able to convince me that fish aren't sight feeders as well as scent feeders. Now, they find their food in a number of different ways, just like we do as well. Think about our senses. You can smell it, you can taste it, you can see it. If it's dark, you can actually feel it. Fish are exactly the same. So they've got nostrils on the top of the head. They can smell food. They can hear food. Yeah, that sounds a bit weird, but they've got really, really good hearing, and noise travels underwater. And I've seen it with my own eyes when fish have been feeding on pellets and crunch. Other fish can hear that and they'll come in and they'll feed, or they'll be looking for the fact that another fish is feeding somewhere. So they hear food, they see food, they smell food. Now, seeing food is really, really important, particularly in my mind in clear water, because they're on the lookout for food all the time. They're looking for predators, obviously, because their eyes are on the side. They're looking around to make sure they're safe, but they're also on the lookout for food as well. So